They say truth often wears the cloak of legend. But what if legend itself is merely a shadow cast by an even deeper truth? This isn't just a story about a football game. This is about what happened behind the game, the unseen forces, the meticulously laid plans that culminated in one of the most absolute dominations the Super Bowl stage has ever witnessed. We all saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lift the Lombardi Trophy. But what if their victory wasn't merely a triumph of skill, but the flawless execution of a secret blueprint, decades in the making? What if the outcome wasn't just desired, but predetermined? The whispers before the storm, before the confetti fell, before the roar of the crowd echoed through Raymond James Stadium, there was an undercurrent of skepticism. Could the old guard truly withstand the relentless surge of youth? Could a team cobbled together late in the season, led by a quarterback in his fifth decade, genuinely dethrone a dynasty in the making? The Kansas City Chiefs, with their dazzling offensive fireworks and a quarterback who seemed to defy gravity, were the reigning champions, the undisputed future of the league. They were innovation, they were speed, they were almost superhuman. The narrative was set, a passing of the torch, a coronation of the new king. But what if that narrative was merely a distraction, a perfectly constructed smokescreen to obscure a much older, much more profound design? What if the Buccaneers weren't just prepared to play, but prepared to rewrite destiny itself? The air buzzed with nervous anticipation for what everyone expected to be an offensive shootout, a high-octane spectacle of two titans trading blows until the very last second. But the architects of this particular Super Bowl, the ones truly pulling the strings, had a different script entirely. They weren't interested in trading blows. They were interested in a surgical dismantling, a precise, methodical deconstruction that would leave no doubt about who truly held the reins of power. The maestro's hidden score. At the center of this intricate design stood a figure shrouded in myth and steel, Tom Brady. We've seen him win before, countless times, but this felt different. This wasn't just a veteran quarterback playing a good game. This was a maestro conducting an orchestra with a score only he could truly read. His throws weren't just accurate. They were anticipatory, arriving at impossible windows before his receivers even made their breaks, as if he possessed a foresight beyond human capability. He didn't just manage the game. He owned it, dictating tempo, exploiting every microsecond of defensive hesitation. Was it mere experience, or something more akin to a deep, almost instinctual understanding of the game's hidden mechanics? Every audible, every subtle pump fake, every shift in protection felt less like a spur-of-the-moment decision and more like the unfolding of a pre-programmed sequence. How else could one explain the unwavering calm, the relentless precision against a defense renowned for its chaos-inducing blitz packages? It was as if he could see the future, or perhaps he had already seen it, having lived through countless similar scenarios in his unparalleled career, recognizing patterns that remained invisible to others. He wasn't just playing football. He was executing a prophecy, each play a step closer to a preordained conclusion. The unbreakable wall's silent language. But even a maestro needs instruments, and the Buccaneers' defense was an instrument of terrifying perfection. This wasn't just a good defense. It was a suffocating, soul-crushing entity that swallowed opponents whole. From the very first snap, they established a rhythm of dominance that Kansas City simply could not break. Patrick Mahomes, the magician of improvisation, found his tricks ineffective, his escapes sealed off, his dazzling throws rendered impotent. The defensive line wasn't just rushing. They were collapsing the pocket with a synchronized fury, converging on Mahomes with an almost telepathic understanding. The linebackers weren't just covering. They were swarming, blanketing receivers, denying every open lane, every glimmer of hope. It was a complete, systematic shutdown, an offensive superpower brought to its knees. How did they achieve such perfect synergy, such an impenetrable wall against arguably the most explosive offense in the league? It felt less like a game plan and more like an ancient ritual being performed, each player moving with a shared purpose, an unspoken language of destruction. They didn't just play defense, They became the defense, a single, unwavering force. The unseen threads of experience. This Super Bowl was, at its heart, a stark declaration: experience over youth. It was wisdom over raw talent, tested grit over boundless potential. The Buccaneers were a collection of seasoned warriors, many of whom had seen the mountaintop before, some multiple times. They carried a collective weight of knowledge, a mental database of high-pressure situations that the Chiefs' younger core simply hadn't accumulated. And within this crucible of veteran leadership, something truly unique was forged. Consider this. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were the first team in NFL history to play a Super Bowl in their home stadium, an almost spiritual advantage that resonated with their veteran core. This wasn't just a geographical coincidence. It was a resonance, a feeling of innate belonging that amplified their collective experience. It fed into the quiet confidence that permeated the locker room, a belief that transcended mere game planning. This belief wasn't accidental. It was meticulously cultivated. Remember the moment Rob Gronkowski decided to unretire? It wasn't just a phone call. Tom Brady reportedly convinced Rob Gronkowski to come out of retirement with a detailed, almost prophetic plan for how they would win a Super Bowl together in Tampa. This wasn't a wish. It was a blueprint, a vision so clear, so precise, that it compelled a future Hall of Famer to return to the gridiron. It suggests a level of foresight, a capacity to see the pieces before they were even on the board that borders on the uncanny. It wasn't just assembling a team. It was assembling a specific collective consciousness capable of executing a grand design. The architect's blueprint and hidden strategies. The domination wasn't born from spontaneous brilliance alone. It was the fruit of an unparalleled level of preparation, a deep dive into the opponent's psyche that bordered on the obsessive. The coaching staff, particularly defensive coordinator Todd Bowles, seemed to possess an almost forbidden knowledge of the Chiefs' every tendency, every vulnerability. They didn't just study film. They deciphered the very algorithms of Kansas City's offense. This level of insight allowed them to craft a game plan so specific, so perfectly tailored, it felt almost predestined. Here's a piece of the puzzle many overlooked. The Buccaneers' defensive coordinator Todd Bowles, who had faced Patrick Mahomes previously with the Jets, implemented a game plan that involved deliberately not blitzing Mahomes early, but rather confusing him with coverage shells, a strategy often overlooked in the post-game analysis. This was counterintuitive, almost defiant, a move that defied conventional wisdom against such a dynamic quarterback. It was a calculated gamble that could only be executed by a team with absolute faith in their preparation, a team that understood the opponent so intimately they could play against their own perceived weaknesses. This wasn't just coaching, it was psychological warfare, an intellectual chess match played out with surgical precision, designed to disorient and dismantle. It was as if they had access to a master playbook, not just for the game, but for the minds of their adversaries. The unveiling, the true architects. So, we return to our initial question. Was this just a game or something more? We saw the domination, the surgical precision, the suffocating defense, the triumph of experience. But what if all of it, the meticulous preparation, the veteran leadership, the seemingly perfect execution, was merely the visible manifestation of a deeper, almost unsettling truth? What if the Buccaneers' historic Super Bowl 55 victory, this undeniable statement of veteran mastery and leadership, wasn't simply the result of hard work and talent? What if it was, in fact, the final, perfect execution of a playbook so intricate, so psychologically devastating, that it had been originally drafted decades prior by a legendary coach who never saw it implemented, a playbook designed to exploit the exact youthful exuberance of their opponents, passed down through a whisper network of football's oldest minds until it found its ultimate architect in Tom Brady? This wasn't just a plan. It was the plan, a singular strategic manuscript, a legacy of foresight patiently waiting for the precise convergence of player, coach, and circumstance to be activated and finally unleashed upon the world, culminating in that single, crushing statement of dominion. It wasn't just a win. It was the inevitable completion of a deeply hidden, perfectly orchestrated football prophecy. And in that shadow, perhaps, we find the true architects of dominion, where legend simply becomes the truth we're finally ready to see.